Fatality may have the first-person shooter skills, but could he find the secret room in Adventure or help E.T. get home? I spent some time with a lot of people who could at this year's Philly Classic. In 1777, General George Washington and his Continental Army decided to encamp in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. Now the yearly home of yet another key part of American history, the Philly Classic.
Philly Classic can be summarized as an event that encompasses everything great about video game culture.
PS2s, GameCubes, Xboxes, all of that's set up, tons of arcade games, and everything in between.
It was a time of Rubik's Cubes, rolled-up jeans, and Ronald Reagan as president. It was also a time when the phrase, "no duh," entered the vocabulary. And it was also what some considered the golden age of gaming.
I think you could say probably 1979 to 1983.
Saved quarters, scrounged the couch for quarters, you know, tried the old drill a hole in the quarter and put it in so I could, that didn't work.
That's when games had to really rely on the fun factor and not so much the graphic factor.
I still have like Activision anthologies on my PS2 I keep playing.
The Philly Classic celebrates all matter of gameplay, and it's also a good place to sell stuff.
The name of the company is Yakmala, and what we do is we take recycled Atari 2600 video game cartridges and turn them into compacts for girls or cigarette cases for guys.
I came here today with 37 paintings, and I've sold almost all of them. So it's more popular than I ever thought it would be, but I'm doing what I love, combining art with gaming.
Some collectors brought rare glimpses of game history.
The name of the hardware is Nuon, which was a replacement chip that would go in DVD players to be able to allow it to play games. It kind of hit at the same time PlayStation 2 was coming out, so everybody said, well, the graphics on this aren't like PlayStation 2, and that can play DVDs, so I'm just going to go buy that.
This is a reproduction of the very first video game prototype with the brown box, which became the Magnavox Odyssey. The original one's going in the Smithsonian. This reproduction was built by Ralph Baer, who did make the original one.
And perhaps the rarest?
Hot Fry's Atari 2600 Pac-Man source code disc that contains the typewritten code that was turned into the infamous 2600 Pac-Man that everyone hated so much.
There were more than 100 vintage video games to play at this year's Philly Classic, which included an actual Philly Classic cabinet as an ode to the event itself. But the biggest draw for the more than 5,000 that showed up was the granddaddy of them all, the Atari.
The word Atari comes from the Japanese game of Go. I don't know if you're familiar. Go is a game that's played on a grid. You're trying to capture the other guy's stones. And the word Atari is the equivalent in that game to what check is in chess.
If Howard Scott Warshaw's name sounds familiar, there's a reason.
I was an Atari game programmer, and I did the games Yars' Revenge, Raiders of the Lost Ark, E.T., and Saboteur. Saboteur, this was my fourth game, and this was a game that was ready to be released by Atari way back in '84. Then the company blew up. That delayed everything for quite a while. And 20 years later, my last game is finally coming out, and I have to say, yeah!
But Saboteur wasn't the only Atari game missing in action.
There are the holy grails of the 2600, such as the Lord of the Rings game. It was basically finished, was never released, and we were able to release that on Atari Age. But there are other games that have never been found, such as the Incredible Hulk, and then Airworld, which was the fourth game in a series, a whole contest that Atari did, which started with Earthworld.
Creativity, entrepreneurship, innovation. I think it was Washington himself who once said, the Philly Classic is America.
So you did a piece about video games from the 80s and you didn't do the robot?
Well, I did, but it got left on the cutting room floor.
Thank God. Some of you may know Philly Classic producer Mark Wolf as Ruddy Gore, one of the moderators in the G4 forums. But he wasn't the only member of the G4 community at the Philly Classic. Patrick set out to put faces with names and avatars on the show floor at this year's event.
At last year's Philly Classic, Patrick McKee met some forum members.
Last year, there weren't that many forum people here, I think about 15. And as soon as Mark Wolf, Rudy Gore, he's the moderator, he kind of got involved in the event. So I talked to him and I was like, I want a table to congregate the forum members. He's like, yeah, sure.
So this year, McKee decided to host his own forums table.
It's great to have something like friends and video games. One thing that Philly Classic is also about is about a social event. This is a social gathering. That's what is most important. We have probably well over 100 G4 forum members alone here. We have people from the area, people from as far as Seattle.
I came all the way from Seattle over here for the weekend, pretty much. But it's worth it to me. It's worth it.
I never knew what like half these people look like or whatever. And like when you meet them, you don't know whether to call them by their real name or their forum name. It's just weird, you know?
I keep bumping into people and they're like, oh, hey, it's me. Can I have a picture? It's really fun, actually. It's nice to meet people again.
I wanted to meet all my friends that I met on the forums because I just got to know them so well and I really wanted to, meet them in person.
I look forward to it every year to come back and see how all my friends have changed and how different they are in person than, on a forum or a chat room.
I've met, I don't know, maybe over 20 to 30 people from the boards. I kept telling people, Philly Classic, trust me, it's going to be good.
It's so fun. I've been drinking this ever since I joined G4 forums. It's great. It's also great meeting you.
I come to these things to meet people, and I've met a lot of great people, seen a lot of great things, and, got to meet Howard Scott Warshaw, got to see Tommy T again, got to see Patrick Clark. I don't know why I'd want to see him.
I think it's pretty cool and good to see everybody, and just keep playing games.
And that's the subject that binds forum members together, games.
I think video games are actually a very social thing from the day of when there was arcade etiquette all the way to now online gaming, multiplayer gaming. It's a very social event. It brings people together. It's not just a solo thing where it's you and the machine.
I love hanging out at the G4 forums. I have a lot of friends there and I love talking about video games with people.
Through G4 I met a lot of people that I consider really good friends,
It's somewhere to go to talk with other gamers and all that you might not see in real life or something.
It's a community. There's a lot of good people, and I think it's great because the hosts talk to people, and it's not just people just talking and chatting. It's like a TV show. They take your opinions, they put it into the show, and it's just great.
People actually hear you. Gamers, hosts, producers, everybody hears you. You actually have a voice on it, and you can talk with it, and you can actually affect how the network evolves and changes, and what shows are cut and what shows make it, basically.
Almost as important as making your voice heard on the forums is the ability to be seen.
A lot of users are defined by their segment avatar and their personality on the forums. If it doesn't stand out, no one's going to see it. It's kind of like advertising. You need to have something that people will see and they'll catch their eye.
People, when they see your name, they instantly think of your avatar and your sig.
I had a Tori Amos one. Everyone commented about that. And the Stinky Cheese Man, I found some baby images. I found a cartoon cigarette image. I threw it all in one sig and I made it as crazy as I could.
All right, so we played some old games, we made some new friends, and we had a good time. Philly Classic, you guys rock. There's still more to come on Pulse, my fellow Pulsifiers. After the break, the Game Developers Conference is where the industry's best converge to discuss the present and future of video games.
But it's also where you'll find people who are just trying to break into the industry. We followed one hopeful and we'll show you his story. All that and more only on Pulse.